Welcome to the Connor Cherland podcast, where I, Connor Cherland, meet up with a musician, have them play a song, hear about what makes them tick, and what kind of stuff they're bringing into their artwork today. On today's podcast, we have Theo from American Sigh, based out of West Palm Beach, Florida. And we talk about his new release called Burning the Flag, as well as his new album Honor System coming out this week. Theo and I also talk about the concept of honesty, sincerity, and trying to be your genuine self as you create art in the world. Please enjoy Theo from American Sigh. Congratulations on a new song coming out today. Today,
Thank
right?
you. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was released today. Premiered yesterday, I guess. So.
Burning the Flag. What a
Yeah.
bold title for someone living in West Palm, Florida.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's sort of tongue-in-cheek, I guess. Like, it's obviously, like, provocative to name a song that, so, I don't know. I had a lot of deliberation.
What kind of deliberation? I imagine it, like, in my mind, if I was to put something out like that, I imagine a phone call with my mom on the day of her being like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Did you get any of those?
No, my sister asked me, what it was about, I guess. I think she was just wanted to know just because out of curiosity, but no, I didn't get anything like that. Most of the people that probably would have done that, I think I like told about the song prior, and I was kind of like just kind of wanted to see the reaction. Like, hey, some of my like more conservative like family members that I'm close with, I was like, hey, I wrote this song called Burning the Flag,
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I guess I just had a lot of thinking about it because I don't know. It could be like too provocative. Maybe like I didn't say it in the right way I wanted to, or you know what I mean. Like it's kind of like you only get one chance to write a song called "Burning the Flag," kind of.
That's
unless I write
true.
A sequel.
Yeah, you couldn't write a sequel. One of the themes from it, I mean, the chorus is saying how like you're in a square place, feeling like you don't necessarily fit into that space. Am I getting that right, or am I?
Yeah. It's like yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it mentioned square and then rectangle, and I was like, I'm pretty sure, right? I'm guessing he's not referring to a smaller rectangle fitting within a square. How does that relate into your music kind of as a whole, or like why did you decide to write on that?
I guess it's been a common theme through most of the songs that I've written. I guess about like personal growth and kind of like learning about yourself and I don't know, trying to become a better person. The album that we're releasing next week that's called Honor System, so it kind of like is sort of playing off that same sort of theme of like what makes you a good person, like how do you be a good person and how do you like be a good person in like this world. I guess your initial question was, or your question was kind of like how does like Burning the Flag relate to all that. I mean it's sort of just a song about, obviously it's about like burning the Confederate flag specifically, I guess. Like I obviously it's called Burning the Flag, you can interpret it however you want, but
Right.
It does specifically reference like the South and stuff like that. So, and I've said as much like in like our PR statement and all that. So uh so I mean, I'm not like trying to hide, I'm not trying to like trick people, like it is about the Confederate flag, but at the same time, like obviously I kind of like expanded upon that and made it kind of about like my own personal growth and just kind of like seeing like negative parts of your past and kind of like recontextualizing them or trying to leave them behind.
Yeah.
Kind of like what that means and, how it can be kind of challenging sometimes and kind of challenge your like sense of self.
Yeah, I liked the idea of why can't I have a flag for everything in my life that I'm like proud of, and then why can't I also have a flag for things I'm ashamed of, would be like you just covered in flags. So putting down the flag of the Confederate, I would imagine one of the flags that you decide to wave is this idea of like Theo learning to become a good person, like a legitimate like believe me that I'm trying to be a good person, to grow as an individual. Like which is why I love those phrases like honor system of like they're all hedging a little bit. Yeah, what other flags do you find yourself like really flying these days?
Over my life, I guess, like I guess just the concept of like honesty. That's like one kind of like, I guess, common like moral that I've kind of like kept with me my entire life that my parents instilled in me. And so I find it quite hard to lie, which can be tricky sometimes. I don't know, you know, it can be hard to like try to like be nice to people and also not lie sometimes. So that can be challenging. So I get that's one. I guess Sincerity, the first like EP that I put out, was called Songs for the New Sincerity. So there's kind of like that, I guess, as well. Just kind of like being like your authentic self and not like, because I see it as another form of honesty, I guess, like sincerity and
Yeah.
presenting yourself without like any deception. So I guess those, I mean, in terms of like actual values, I mean, in terms of like politics, like I guess it's evolving, you know. I don't really
Yeah.
I don't know, I've become quite, I was volunteering for like the Bernie campaign, you know, during the election, so I guess you know that kind of flag. But you know, I've lost, I've become more apathetic, I guess, over the pandemic about it. I mean, not apathetic, but just maybe more like angry, I guess. So
Yeah.
but still learning.
The Bernie flag was my first real like disappointment, I think, in my political life. To have to put that down and to realize like what that meant as like where we are in the world. Normally I don't like typically ask so many politically things, but I mean, when you name your band American Sigh and when you just put out a flag, you just put out a song, Burn the Flag, it's, you know, these are appropriate they're on theme. In an interview you talk about the American Sigh being because you catch yourself sighing a lot and dealing with it, like has to do with the disappointment that comes from modern American life. And I would love to hear you unpack some of that, because I mean, art, like singers like this, it is the fodder, like this is the kind of stuff that people should be singing about and should be working through. Like how do you, there's just so much freaking nuance. I appreciate anybody who has the balls to tackle it, because most days I do not. Yeah, can you talk about that phrase, the disappointment with modern American life?
I'm trying to remember where I said that, but I guess I did. I mean, that does sound like something I would say.
Also,
so.
feel free to say that's fake news.
Well, no, I'm sure. No, I think I did say that. I just couldn't remember. I was like, I don't think I've been interviewed like that many times.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, I have this like memory from when I was like really young where I like found out like what a country was when I was, I don't know, so, you know, probably everyone learns about that eventually, but like, you know, I was like 6 or something or 7, and I realized that not everyone was like American and that there were other, I don't know, I guess I thought, you know, you kind of realize that there are other people, I guess, in the world at a certain point, and that not everyone has the same life as you. And, you know, I had a pretty good life as a child, so I can't really complain, but I guess then at a certain point you kind of realize that other people have it really shitty. Then you kind of are like, well shit, why do they have it like so bad? Or, you know, why did they have like that misfortunate thing happen to them? Or why were they born into like poverty? Or for me it was like that journey from like there to like, oh, this country's like kind of messed up at a certain point. And then it was like coasting from that until like now, where I'm just like, wow, our country's like kind of like evil in a lot of ways. And it's, you know, it's funny because I was actually like, I probably, like, when I said that, like, since then, like, I've changed more.
Yeah.
So I think of it, like, kind of in this, like, loose American sigh. Like, I kind of used to say, like, a sigh can be, like, positive. It can sort of be negative. It's usually kind of, like, negative. But you could be, like, a sigh of relief. I guess there could be, like, a sigh of joy or, I don't know, sigh of, like, exasperation. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's, like, a lot of context you could put it in. So I guess, like, I thought, like, oh, you know, you could see it as a positive thing where you're like, wow, we're American and we like just made it through, like, whew, like, you know, sigh from that. But I was talking to one of my really old friends who was like a videographer recently about it, and was kind of just like talking about how like it's changed the way I'm saying right now. And I don't know, now I'm like less proud of being like an American. Not that I like reject that I am that, but just that I'm not like, yeah, America is like great country, best country on earth, and I'm like super proud to be here. Like I'm trying to learn, like I love people and I love the people here, and I think everyone like, you know, deserves a good life or whatever. But as far as like the concept of like America, I'm just kind of like losing more faith in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's evolved over time. I mean, it'll probably evolve again. I'm sure I'll changed from what I'm saying right now too. So, but it's pretty vague, like I said. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like,
Yeah.
I think a good band name is kind of like it can change over time, or it has like multiple meanings, or can pose a question, I guess, for you instead of like answering it. And music in general.
Yeah, art. Yeah, I would say art in general. The album art for Honor System is so cool. This is my interpretation of it, and then you can tell me how wrong I am, because I assume I'm wrong. So it's like a scene with a dude in a chair. The dude has no face. There's alcohol on the floor. There's cigarettes on the floor. There's pages everywhere. He's got a book for a head. I imagine he offed himself because someone is pointing a flashlight into his house where he is. One, why doesn't he have a face? And two, why is someone with a flashlight on him? It doesn't seem gruesome at all. Like the tone of the picture is not gruesome. So I was like, I don't think that's what it is. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you went with what you went with?
Yeah, well, I guess first I'll just say the artist who made it was named Bruno Lopez Vargas, I guess. I'll send you his Instagram or something. Yeah, so he basically, I sent him a message. He's always like kind of been this guy that like doodles funny stuff. Like he's very like genuinely like funny person to be around, and he's also a really talented like artist. So he just will doodle stuff and draw. And so I saw him a few years ago, and like when I was visiting him, some friends in Portland, and he like gave me a few of his like doodles like that he had done. So I like kept thinking over the years, like, damn, I really want to get him to do album art at some point, and like that would be so fun. So, anyways, I sent him a message. He kind of like he's like he's a professional artist, so he like had all these like we kind of like storyboarded like the concepts. I sent him like some ideas, like some color palettes, that sort of thing, and then like he basically just like painted this like kind of like motif of like this man with the book. I've been calling him Bookface in my head. There's no name. So it wasn't like thought out I didn't tell him like, oh, we need to make it like a dude with a book in his face. But he was listening to Vulnerable, which talks about like sitting at your house and like staring at the ceiling and that sort of thing. So maybe that was kind of like where it came from. But I like your interpretation. I mean, I never interpreted it like that. I'm not really the type of person that like tries to get that detailed with something unless like I really, really like think about it for too long. I kind of just like saw it. I liked it. I thought it was interesting. Like it's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
I didn't really like think about it too much, but I do like your interpretation. Like partially because like the album is kind of like has a lot of material about like being depressed and like, feeling sad and being anxious or being frustrated at your situation. Nothing's like explicitly about like suicide or anything, but like that's definitely like, depression is definitely a place of inspiration for me. So I like that. And yeah, like the flashlight, that's cool. I think for me, like I just saw it as like somebody's like kind of being exposed because of that, like that bright light kind of like motif where it's like you're in your own house reading a book, or maybe you don't have a face or whatever. I don't know. It's sort of surreal. That's part of the reason I like it too.
Yeah.
But I guess I saw it as kind of like being exposed and like sort of like on that like vulnerable, I don't know. And that's just also like part of the album too, is like a lot of these songs when I first wrote them I was like embarrassed. I didn't want to like, I was unsure if I was going to share Vulnerable as a song. I was unsure if I was going to share Burning the Flag because they like felt like too personal when I wrote them to like share with people. I was like scared to, and then like I think like I kept telling myself like, well, that means that's like a good thing. It's like good to be like, it's good to share things. And like, it's kind of like a, like that's what Vulnerable is about. It's like, I want to be like, so it's like, it's in the song. Like what I'm saying exactly what I want to say, and I'm scared to say it because like, it's scary. So ties into it like that.
What was it like starting to share that with people? I would imagine you just share it with like a couple buddies and they're like, dude, you got to share this. And you're like, no. And then you share it with just like a couple more and they're like, you got to. And you're like, no. And then it just kind of goes from there.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, usually like my roommate will hear the song first, or like my bandmates, I'll send them like a demo or something. And the reason I didn't want to share that one is because I kind of felt like it sounded a little like too trite, like, or just too like straightforward and just too like on the nose almost. Like I want to be vulnerable. Like it's kind of sounds like a pop song, but like I like pop music. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like went through all these conversations in my head about it. I was playing a lot of open mic nights a few years ago when I first moved here. So that was kind of like a way for me to like show people without like having it be like too big of a deal. Burning the flag, like same thing. Like I showed some people, like they were like, yeah, this is awesome. I was kind of like, I don't know about this one. I literally was like thinking about taking it off the album like a few months ago, like when we
Yeah.
were finalizing it, because I was like, this doesn't sound right. Like I don't know, this song's too much. Like, but now it's like everyone's like texting me today, or like some people are like, oh, it's my favorite song. A lot of people keep telling me that's their favorite song, so I'm like, okay. I mean, it's a good feeling. Yeah, it's just that journey from like being terrified to share it and then like getting positive feedback. It's nice. So
Yeah, well,
it's
I mean,
cathartic.
yeah, I would imagine very cathartic and good proof that you are a good songwriter and you can make good stuff. And,
Oh, you're too kind.
yeah, well, I mean, they work. They do well. You mentioned depression as a place of inspiration. This is it's an interesting topic because it's not fun to be depressed, but a lot of people get their most creative times when they are depressed. It seems
Mm-hmm.
you're just like, because your emotions are too loud. How do you ride the balance of using emotions for art? Right, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And falling off the deep end. Is that a tension that you balance well or don't balance well, or how do you manage that in your life?
That's a really good question. That's interesting. I sometimes have to force myself to write to get the good stuff to come out. Sometimes that means like I'm not depressed and I'm forcing myself to write because I want to write a song, and sometimes that means I'm depressed and I'm forcing myself to write because I want to write a song. But like I try to like avoid feeling like I have to feel a certain way to write, I guess, because I just need to like do that forcing sometimes just to like get the juices flowing. And then a lot of people say this, but I'll just say it again too, is like, it like helps me process like emotions sometimes when I'm like writing. I'm like, oh, like I didn't even like think about that, but I was like I didn't want to write a song about that, but then that's just like kind of what I sang or like what came out or like the feeling that I was like evoking. Like it can be helpful for me in that way. I try not to like cause things that will make me sad
Mm-hmm.
in order to write. But obviously like I've thought in the past like, damn, I wrote a good song when like that girl broke up with me.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm like, sometimes I'll like be in a relationship and I'll be like, wow, nothing bad could happen because even if this goes south, like I'll write some good songs off it. Just like, I don't know, I try not to like give any like credence to those thoughts necessarily, but just like know that like I'll be able to write songs no matter what, whether I'm feeling really good or really bad. Try to like not lean too much into it. I wouldn't say I use it like as a form of therapy or anything, but it definitely is therapeutic. It can be nice to write songs, but sometimes like I'm so mad or angry or sad or like anxious that I'm like I can't possibly write right now because I'm just like so drained, or like I'm just like laying in bed like crying or whatever. Like it changes over time. Like sometimes I'll
Yeah.
write when I'm super feeling a certain way, and sometimes writing, like I said, like will like bring it out. These are all
Yeah.
like very rambling answers, but
No, I mean that's what we're here for. I appreciate it. Processing. I've noticed just in our time together this like reflex. Please excuse me for analyzing you. This reflex to call out things that are trite or cliche or
mm-hmm.
overdone, which is also a reflex that I have. Sometimes it feels like I'm borrowing other people's words, as if I'm like
Mm-hmm.
not actually interacting. I'm just borrowing cliches and like throwing them into conversation. And I don't want people to think that. I want them to think like I'm saying
Yeah,
things to you. When
yeah, like
you're
it's genuine.
yeah, when you're songwriting, yeah, and I imagine that ties in with this thing of like honesty and sincerity and integrity. When you're songwriting, how do you get past that self-editor who's like, nope, nope, that's too you can't say you feel sad. You can't say honestly, I just want to be vulnerable. You can't. You don't get to say those things. It's too straight. It's not. That's not art. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
how do you get past that voice?
Well, I guess I kind of already talked about it with Vulnerable specifically, because that was a song where I thought it was like a little bit too cliche to say like I want to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
And I like, or it's cliche to say I want to share the world with you. Like just the chorus lyrics, basically, like they
yeah,
felt very like on the nose, and like I'd never really written a song like that before, I guess. Maybe I had, but not like in that way. Not where I felt that good about it. It was just that like internal conversation that I kept having with myself where I was like, okay, well I wrote it already, so like it already exists. So I can either like edit the lyrics to like make it less this way, or I can just like I have to like kind of sometimes just trust like my like initial like inspiration and not like be too like edity about it, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you lose like rawness of it, and that's like vulnerable. Like specifically I wrote that lyric in my phone, like I want to be vulnerable, which actually I later realized was like from another song, which like okay whatever, but it was like, you know, it's a different genre, and it's
Yeah.
like, well I'll just say it's from this band Idols from Britain. Maybe I'm gonna get copyrighted for that.
No.
Anyways, it's pretty generic statement, but yeah. So I just like I wrote that in my phone because I wanted to say that, and I had been thinking about that kind of thing a lot. So then I, when I went home to like write it, and then I expounded upon it and got further along, then I was like, shit, this is really like cool. Like there was something like I really liked about saying it. Like it, like I said, like it was catharsis. I guess it was just that conversation from like when I wrote it, my internal conversation, from when I wrote it to when I actually recorded it and released it, continuously, basically just like reaffirming that like, yes, this is like a good song that I wanted to like share. But I guess that's that for every like artist to decide for themselves, like how they want to write a song or how they want to present it. Some people, like I think, are more like writing lyrics like more analytically, where they're kind of like, okay, does this make sense? Like, you know, like storyteller lyrics, for example.
Right.
Like Andy Schaaf is like a person that I really like. His lyrics are much more like story based, so I would imagine like the process is different. It's not just like more as raw as like kind of where I usually start. You know, maybe I'll change I change my process a lot, so it's not always the same, but a lot of times it's like kind of raw, so I try to like kind of keep that in there somewhere. That's where the most like powerful inspiration can
Right.
come from.
Do you have any other stolen lyrics, melodies, any other things that you're interested in sharing with the group? Great artists steal. This is a known fact.
I'm trying to think of like maybe what like on this record that's coming out, like other ones. Let me see. I try not to draw lyrics from other songs
Yeah.
typically. I mean, that was like it wasn't conscious for sure, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'll sometimes like just pull like little phrases. Like I've been writing down like phrases just like that I read that I find interesting, philosophers or like in random books, or like, you know, just something somebody said.
Cool.
I can't think of any other examples though.
Okay. No, I think pulling from books is like one of the most underrated sources for songwriters. There's just
Yeah.
like there's plenty of books that just people who are reading those books are never going to come across your music, and vice versa. It's like, you know what,
Yeah.
this is a totally different context applied to my life. It's
Yeah.
just it sounds great. I'd like to hear a little bit about your support. Everybody has someone, like a group of people surrounding them. You've mentioned parents, you've mentioned friends. There's also a couple names that I don't know what they mean, so feel free to fill this in. Respectable Street, Voltaire, and Pure Honey.
Okay, Pure Honey is like a local to West Palm Beach, Florida magazine. It is music focused. Like they'll do like press, you know, like local shows. Like they'll print out like a list of shows that are happening. They'll like do write ups. They'll do like ads for venues and anything. And they do this like music festival once a year. So Pure Honey is just this basically this like local magazine, local, like not like Pitchfork necessarily, but they're plugged into the local scene, and the guy who runs it also books shows and stuff like that. So that's been a big support. Voltaire and Respectable Street are both music venues and are, but yeah, so Voltaire actually shut down, unfortunately.
Oh, geez.
And Respectable Street is still open. Respectable Street is like this kind of older venue that's been around since like the 80s. So they've had like Red Hot Chili Peppers and like Death Cab for Cutie and
Nice.
like, you know, big band, like huge bands have
Yeah.
played Respectable Street. So that's probably like, that's one of the like better venues for bands. Like both of those spots were like we played a lot. We played Respectable Street recently, and Voltaire is like right next to Respectable Street. It was just another club. So those have been like nice like support, I guess, networks for us in terms of like other bands, meeting other bands. That's where I met my drummer. Like when I first got here, I like went to a show at Voltaire, met my drummer. Through him, I met like a guy that produced on the album, and then I met, you know, just it's like all these chains of people that
Your drummer is Ben?
Well, it's been a revolving door, so
Okay.
I won't say
Okay.
the drum. I mean, Ben Henry plays guitar.
Okay, gotcha.
On the album, so he's
Okay.
playing electric guitar. He's the one ripping the solo on "Burning the Flag."
Nice.
That sick solo, and
The one at the very end?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, all of them, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Because I'm playing acoustic guitar in that song.
Nice.
But yeah. So I mean, now this guy Sage Duvall has been playing drums. The person who played drums on the record is named Christian Romano, and yeah, he's
Nice.
a fantastic drummer. We always are like we're like playing the songs now, like, you know, with kind of like a new formation since the record was recorded, and we're always like, as we're like piecing them together, we're like, damn, that's like really like cool, you know, drum part.
Cool. You mentioned that you moved to Palm Beach. Where were you before that?
I went to college in Indiana. I'm actually originally from California.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where?
Napa, California.
Yeah.
It's like near San Francisco.
Yeah.
That's where I like grew up primarily.
Nice. I'm in Santa Barbara, so it's not super
Oh,
far.
nice.
Yeah. There's a bunch of people going out there for work. Would you be at all interested in playing one of the songs off the album?
Sure. Got my guitar ready.
Sorry, am I catching you off guard?
No, of course not. No, I read the email.
Okay, great.
I was thinking I might play Burning the Flag just because it came out today, but
Go
I
for
could
it.
play Vulnerable. I mean, either one. I'll play Burning the Flag. I'm gonna burn that flag, shock it swiftly like a heart attack, fill arteries like stomach fat, take a match to the thread, and when the ashes fall, America with it like mini Mars, we almost lost it in the southern draw. That's what they said. Well, I almost left what you prepared. I know myself, I was unaware. Karma kept me in my square. I found out I was rectangular. Why does only the South get one? I want a flag for everything I've done. Also done things I'm not proud of. I'd rather forget. I've got a circle etched into my skin. It won't come out no matter how hard I itch. No alcohol to burn a hole in it. Taking it to the grave. Well, I almost left what you prepared. I know myself, I was unaware. Karma kept me in my square. I found out I was rectangular. If we quickly give the trophy out, tell the children in the back row shout, tell the people to sing it loud. I'm burning the flag. Well, I almost left what you prepared. I know myself, I was unaware. Karma kept me in my square. I found out I was rectangular. Yeah!
Well done. Sounds great, man.
Thank
I
you.
dig it a lot.
Appreciate that, Connor.
I was curious if you were gonna do the that ending part where you fade out
Oh, the coda
and then
section.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then come back.
Yeah,
in
I was
fast.
kind of like, I was just like briefly thinking, and I was like, like it's kind of like a band focus.
It
section,
is a
so,
band focus section.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a smart call. So what keeps you in Florida?
Well, I graduated college in Indiana, and I got a job here, and that was the reason pretty much I moved here.
What do you do over there?
I'm an engineer. I work for like a utility, just like numbers on spreadsheets essentially. Sometimes I'll like go out to like the field and kind of see some equipment in person and stuff like that. Mostly like computer based work. Yeah,
Well, that's great.
it's whatever. I mean, I like it. I guess when I first moved here, I was like, oh, like fuck, why did I move here? And anyways, one of the songs on the record, like I wrote like right after I got here about like kind of like hating Florida or like being worried that I made the wrong decision and being like jealous of other friends that like went to cooler places or whatever. I've kind of always had the like mindset you should be able to, not like you should, but you kind of like you should be able to like be happy anywhere, like as long as you bloom where you're planted sort of idea. Like you just have to put in the effort sometimes to like find what's cool about the place. Like it's really pretty here, and it's also like 100% of the time you can wear a t-shirt basically. So they're positive things, kind of similar to Santa Barbara in that way.
Yeah, and for someone who enjoys outdoor sports, that is very important to be able to have access to outdoors. Are you climbing out there? Are there places to climb in Florida?
Yeah, I mean, no. I've been like on and off like rock climbing for like 10 years almost, probably now. I climbed a lot. I rock climbed a lot in college. I've never lived anywhere like that great for rock climbing other than California, which I left. Yeah, there's like a rock climbing gym not too far from here, so like I'll go there like once every couple weeks with some friends, and like we'll climb. And we actually last year like we went on a trip to Chattanooga and did some rock climbing, and so that was did some like bouldering and stuff like that.
Nice.
Are you a big rock climber? Or?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
play pickleball, which is also very
nice.
big in Florida.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have heard of that, but I've never played it here.
Oh, retirement communities eat it up, man. They go
shit.
absolutely bananas. So Florida is all about that, and so is Santa Barbara. There's a bunch of retired people out here. Yeah, I was so curious about you living in Florida with like being from California, because it's ingrained in us as Californians at a young age, like to hate every other state, to just mock every other state for not being California. So yeah, I'm glad that you're finding the good in it.
It definitely draws you in. I've been like on and off thinking about moving to like LA for a long time.
They got plenty of people there.
Yeah, they already have everyone they need. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll definitely like I still have family in California and stuff like that. So that is like kind of like one reason I would want to go back. And like I think like growing up like in the Bay Area, like moving here was like sort of a rejection of that, just because it like kind of became very like techy and like startup businessy, and like I'm an engineer, so I guess it kind of would sound like weird to say that, but I'm just like not into that startup culture, I guess.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to like be involved in that. I just work for like a normal like corporation, and live here and try to make music my livelihood as I can. So
yeah. I would love to ask you some questions that I ask every person, as they seem quite telling. We've mentioned books already. Do you have any particular books that you have found like extremely helpful in the last couple of years, or books you continue to come back to, like big influences on you?
Well, I'm not a huge book reader. I've been like trying to like read more books. A bunch on my shelf that I've like, like a long list. When I was a few years ago, like when I was finishing college, I read The Dharma Bums by Jack Kerouac, and that book was like, it's the book that like came after On the Road. It's like typical like Jack Kerouac, where like it's like the characters are fictional, or it's like a fictionalized version of his life basically. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it's just a cool book. It's like he's kind of like into Buddhism in that period of his life, so he's like meditating a lot and like like he climbs like a mountain and like just does all this random stuff that's like really cool, and it's kind of a whimsical book in that way where it's just kind of like a slice of life. You know, other I wrote a song about it a long time ago that like never saw any light. But yeah, that one, I guess recently like I read I've been trying to read this is so all right, I don't want to like anyway, I've been trying to read like Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace
Yeah.
forever, and like so like but I every time I get like 100 pages in, I'm just like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And then something like stops me from going further. But so anyway, so like in the last year I bought like his first book, which is shorter, called The Broom of the System.
Okay,
And I
cool.
read that recently, and that wasn't I'm like it's one of those books where like I just like heard about it on the internet. Like I was seeing this girl that called it like bro lit, so I don't know whatever that means, but yeah. So anyways, I just read it because I thought it'd be interesting, and I've heard things about like David Foster Wallace's philosophy that kind of like resonate with me, like about sincerity and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
so I read that book recently. That one's been interesting, just really odd and like funny. And I guess I don't draw any like direct I don't draw a ton of like direct inspiration from books, but you know, just kind of like ideas promulgate somewhere, and then
He also has that thing of like wanting to say the thing that's trite, but also not wanting to sound trite at the same time. But he talks about he uses the word corny a lot, and he says like it's possible humanity at its core is corny, and like being able to embrace that like equals happiness at some points.
yeah.
So yeah, in that way, I mean, you're doing great. You're applying his beliefs. You're putting out vulnerable. You're doing great. What is
Thank you.
some bad music career advice, or some bad music advice in general that someone's given you?
Take every show that's offered to you,
Nice.
I think. That I mean, you know, I don't really think I'm at liberty to like say what's good and bad advice, because I'm only as successful as I've been.
Well, I would say that's
Which
good advice. What
yeah.
what you're saying as the contrary.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't know, that's just something like the past like few months I've been like trying to, it's hard though, you know, some you're offered shows, especially when you're playing locally, you're like, oh yeah, they want us to play, like
Mm-hmm.
can be hard to be like, no,
Yeah.
there's no point in us playing that. You know,
Right.
it's like it's just gonna like spin our wheels kind of thing. Or
Yeah. Are there any soft or hard rules that you've given yourself for when you say yes and when you say no to band play? Money, I
no,
assume, is one of them.
no, not really. I mean, yeah, that is sort of one. I mean, it's not like the biggest factor. I don't know. It changes all the time. I guess like I don't really have any serious rules, but nowadays like the pandemic and everything, like we're just trying to be a lot choosier about like where and when we play, because you're putting people at risk by playing on some level. It's just like not worth it. You know, sometimes it's like you play the same venue like as a local band, and it's like who cares, like the same 20 friends come, you know, it doesn't like do much for you nowadays. Everything's so like on the internet now that it's like you could spend like the amount of effort that you did like preparing for that show to like do something on the internet and probably gain like more fans than you would have from playing the show.
Yeah.
So I don't, there's no like hard and fast rules, but I guess I'm just like trying to get more mindful about that.
That's smart. What's the worst gig you ever played?
When I was in high school, we were asked to play like this. My band in high school was basically like the same kind of like genre. It was like indie rock, like indie pop, kind of like, you know, like we were big fans of like Vampire Weekend and stuff like that. So we got asked to play this show in San Francisco, and we were from like Napa, so it's like an hour and a half away.
Mm-hmm.
We got asked to play. It was like a metal showcase. I have no idea why we got asked to play it, but it was in the middle of the Mission. I don't know. It was our first time playing in San Francisco, and we were all like 17, so we're like, hell yeah, we're gonna go down to San Francisco. We're gonna like, this is gonna be our big break. And but we completely like underestimated the amount of traffic, so we ended up like getting there like basically after when our like set time would have been. Jeez. And then it was on like the main road in the Mission district, which I guess is like Mission, I don't remember. We were like parked on this like really busy street, and we had to like get all our gear out, and then we had to find parking. We had 2 cars. We set up all our gear But our singer at the time was like trying to find parking, and the like venue organizers, because we were late, they were like, no, you guys need to go on now or you're not getting to play. So we
Jeez.
played the entire set without our singer.
Oh, what?
Anyway, so we played it, and it was terrible. I mean, it was, we played probably whatever. I don't know how good or bad we played, but we played it without our singer, and me and my friend who like were the songwriters, like we sang.
Okay.
And as we like finished our set, we played for like, I don't know, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. As we finished, like our singer comes in, and like we're
Jeez.
like getting off stage, and he's like, all right, so when do we go on?
Oh,
And we're just
no.
like, we already played, buddy. Like,
Oh,
it
jeez.
was so depressing. We
That's
just like
insane.
sat in traffic for like 3 hours to get there, and yeah,
That's such a
that was the
bummer.
worst one for sure. Yeah.
It's but when you said play without him, I was like, oh wow, you just went pure instrumental for a solid
No, well,
set.
that was the thing. Yeah, that was the thing with my high school band, is like me and one of my good friends, Brandon, started the band, and we were songwriting, but we weren't like confident enough to sing, so we kept getting singers in to like sing our songs.
Yeah,
And then eventually it was like, all right, we're just gonna sing because
yeah,
like we're writing the songs anyways. So
yeah. Did
but
you end up taking any lessons, or did you just pick it up?
for songwriting or just like
Yeah, for
in
songwriting.
music? No, I pretty much just started writing them. I guess like the first song I wrote was called like "She's a Nerd" or something.
Nice.
It's like it was kind of a joke. I don't know. Yeah, I just started writing and like reading a lot about like how people write and stuff like that.
Well, sweet. Well, those are the questions I have for you. Are there is there I mean, American Sigh is how people can find you on pretty much everything. One of them has an underscore, right?
Yeah, the Twitter handle has an underscore.
But other than that, everything's American Sigh, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool.
exactly.
Great.
AmericanSide.com would be a good place to go. It's got everything kind of in one place.
Anything else you want people to be looking out for in the very near future? Possibly a release of sorts.
Yeah, we have our full length album coming out next Friday. It's called Honor System. There's 9 songs on it, taken like 3 years in the making. Well, four, I guess. Yeah, 4 years. So yeah, it's I'd like people to listen to that when it comes out. So maybe if they find us on their streaming service and follow us or something like that.
Awesome. And so next Friday, which means it'll be available at like Thursday night our time.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Thursday at midnight, and and also we're filming a live session of the record like this weekend, so that'll be out. You can watch out for that, and we have a music video, so just lots of content. I guess if you follow us on social media, you'll hopefully see it. So
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thank you, Theo. I appreciate it, and I'll clap us out.